Hello, my name is Claudia. I was talking to Shelly earlier and telling her what year I graduated, and I said 2007, and that happens to be the oldest person here, which is kind of scary. So it's been 7 years since I graduated from Gavilan, and when I graduated, there was actually no comm degree. I think it was the year before the comm degree was available, so all that I had was the comm certificate. So I completed that. When I got to Gav and was kind of thinking about what major I wanted to pursue, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are in that boat right now, I chose business administration. Have no idea what I want to do with my life. Business sounds like a good idea. I'll probably make a lot of money, so I'll go with that. I soon realized that wasn't really where I wanted to go. I really enjoyed writing. I had a passion for reading. I really liked talking to people, and really critical thinking was where I excelled. So I switched to English, then decided I didn't want to be an English teacher, didn't want to write for a living. So as I talked to my counselor here at Gavilan, I fell in love with communications. That kind of married the two with the business mindset, which is eventually where I wanted to go, and the English, the writing, the reading, the critical thinking, and that sort of thing. So I started in comms and took probably every course available at that time. I got my certificate. And the program here at Gavilan was really where I found a passion for communications and started researching where could I go beyond Gavilan. So with that in mind is when I was applying to universities. I ended up going to San Jose State. My minor at San Jose State is in speech communication. My major is actually a journalism focused major in public relations, which is what I do now. So after San Jose State, immediately started working in the field. I spent 3.5 years at a PR agency in the Silicon Valley where I represented major technology companies. I fell in love with communicating on behalf of other companies and really honing all of my skills and using that as a foundation to represent those companies and their constituents and things like that. So technology is really where I found my passion. I spent the last part of my career there representing General Motors and working for the technology portion of General Motors, and then the company flew me out to Detroit where I lived for about almost 6 months building a program for their connected consumer program. After I came back from Detroit, I spent a good amount of time building product reviews programs for various technology companies. I built the product review program for Netgear Incorporated, so working with their routers and things like that. And I built the global reviews program for Samsung for their televisions. So what that means is just generally working with the media to review products and things like that. So all of these things that I'm talking about, you may not think you're using your communications degree and your skills in, but you absolutely are. So it's just about kind of thinking about the skills you're learning here in class and where you can use them in your career. So right now I'm actually been with my company for about 1.5 years. I'm currently the U.S. PR manager for Blue Mobile Inc. We are a large publicly traded mobile gaming company. We're based in San Francisco. So right now I manage all of our U.S. product communication, and I also manage our Asia Pacific business. So every product that we come out with throughout the year, I'm responsible for launching the product, getting it out into the media, prepping all of our executives, making sure they know all their messaging points. They know about each product, they're proficient in speaking about each product, as well as kind of facilitating interviews. So every time my CEO is on TV, I prep him beforehand. I give him talking points. We talk about what's going on in the industry, things to say, things not to say, the best way to frame certain parts of the business, and things like that. And then I manage my counterparts in Japan, China and South Korea.
Well, like Shelly said, my name is Laurelyn Petit. I did the certificate program and then the associate's program in communication here, wrapped up in 2009. Fell in love with communications here. When I was here, I had no idea what I was going to do long term, and mostly because of Shelly and Denise's classes. I just fell in love with the world of communication, primarily because I saw how much this impacted my everyday life. And it was a degree program that I didn't need to wait until I finished the program for it to be useful and applicable in my life. All I needed to do was go to class every day, do my work every day, apply it every day, and it was useful on a daily basis. And still is, which was really appealing to me as a career and as a degree program too. So wrapped up here in 2009 and then transferred to Santa Clara University, stayed local like Claudia, and got my bachelor's in communication there. I love communication. That's like 3 things in communication. Still love it. After school, I joined a company called Palantir Technologies. We're a software company in downtown Palo Alto. Have been there for about 3 years. And first started as their receptionist. That's the fun part about being a new grad, is you get to come in at the bottom level, but it was actually a really great place to start and really figure out where I wanted to be. It's an interesting challenge, I think, for communication majors to be able to come out of school and land straight into their career where they want to be. And so be totally open to those jobs that don't feel like they're really glamorous or really exactly where you want to be, because they built such a solid foundation where you want to end up next. So after I stayed there as a receptionist, I moved on to their people operations team. People operations is essentially the equivalent of HR, but we hate that staunchy, old school, structural feeling that HR brings about in people's minds, and so we call ourselves people ops or people operations. And we really care about people. We like to connect with them on a more human level than maybe the typical human resources department would. I use my degree every freaking day. I work primarily on internal people issues, programs, development. I work a lot with new hires, helping to train them in the business. I work with new managers, new leads, teaching them how to have a good communication cadence with their people, how to give good feedback, how to connect on their level. And then on the less fun side of things, I work on a lot of performance management things with folks who are not doing well in the business. I'm in the room for a lot of terminations, which really sucks, but is actually a really cool opportunity to spin my communication background to connect with people too. So that's where I'm at now. I love it. I love HR. I see so much the connection between a communication degree and where I'm at now. If this field interests you, I'd love to talk to you. And in thinking about potential advice to give current students now, a couple things came to mind. First is communication is awesome. It is one of the most applicable degrees that you can go after, whether it's at a certificate, AA, bachelor's, master's level. I highly endorse it. Second thing, random, but I encourage you guys, please, 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 when you're applying for an internship or a job, either now or in the future, have at least 2 people proofread your resume. I can't tell you how many resumes I've seen, how many resumes I see other people come across who are either tossed out because there were too many errors or formatting mistakes on them. It made the difference between a first interview and a second interview for people, when all this person had to do was have it proofread by a couple people. Random piece of advice, but I'm passionate about that, so I'll tell you. The second thing that I've been thinking about is less a piece of advice and more something that I've just been thinking about for the last few weeks and wanted to share with you guys. And it's this idea of being an empathetic communicator. And I've been learning it a lot in my job in the last few weeks, but I see it as really applicable wherever you're at too. And this idea of empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to understand where they're coming from, where they're at, where they're going. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but it's understanding who they are. And this plays out for me if I'm in the room with someone and I'm telling them this is their last day at work, that they're fired. That could be a really, really terrible conversation. But if I can match their tone, their feeling, if I can understand what it's going to be like for them that afternoon when they go home and tell their family or their significant other that they lost their job, then it changes the conversation. It changes how comfortable that person is. if I'm in an interview for a job that I really want, and I'm not really connecting with the other person so much, but I really want this job, and I can take a minute and kind of understand where that other person's at, what their background is, if they love their family, if they're into sports, even superficial things like that. It allows you to really connect with them on their level. And I found that, especially recently in my life, to be so powerful. So I wanted to share that with you guys. How do you get there? This is what I've come up with. 2 ways to become an empathetic communicator: ask questions and listen.
As Shelley said, my name is Allie Henry, and I am a park ranger, if you couldn't tell by the outfit here. This isn't a costume. Some people mentioned earlier. No, it's a real thing. I am a park ranger with the county. A little untraditional, not something that you might think of every day. When a lot of people think, do you have a park management degree? Did you go to West Valley College and do the park program? And no, I didn't. I had no idea that I wanted to be a park ranger until my last semester here at GAV, and I didn't graduate until 2012. But before that, when I started here at Gavilan, I, like most of you probably did, I met with a counselor. And on that list of things to check off and do and classes to take was communication. And I just said, let's just get this out of the way. Which one do I need to do? What is it? Small group communication. And I was terrified. I work very well on my own, which serves me well in my current position, but I thought I can do this, I can take it. And I did, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Like you were saying, it's just, it impacts you so much. And I took another class the following semester, and then another one. And finally, one day, I went over to that wall over there, and there's still those cards on that wall that tell you what you need to do to be a communication major. And I picked one of those up, and I said, I can do this. I'm pretty much halfway through. I've been here for 2 years. So that's exactly what I did. I was a communication major. Like I said, I fell in love with it. Public speaking was my domain, and it continues to be so today in my current job. And my last semester, I figured out, after working for the Parks Department in a few other different capacities, a few other different jobs, that I wanted to be a park ranger. And I didn't transfer. I didn't go to a state school. I didn't go to a UC. My communication studies degree is what it is. This is what I have. I had to do 2 years after GAV of prereqs to be a park ranger. That was a lot of work. I had to take law enforcement classes. I had to take other classes, EMR classes, to be an emergency medical first responder, and it was a lot of work. And after 2 years, I interviewed. I was brought on as seasonal, and it took so much work, and I was so happy to get there. And just a few weeks ago, I interviewed for full-time, and I got that as well. And I leave for the academy in January, so I'm very excited. Thank you. So just because some of you are tossing up whether or not you want to be comm majors, you can do almost anything. And I did not know if my department would accept my degree, and thought, holy cow, I'm graduating in a semester. I need to approach them and say, will you accept this? And I had to beg a little bit, but they finally looked into it and went, we'll take it. And I've used it every single day, without a doubt in my mind. It's been fantastic. My coworkers come to me, ask me questions like I'm very knowledgeable, which I am. I'm able to answer those questions and speak to some people and do some things that people can't do. And I'm always, hey, tomorrow we have that impromptu speech downtown. Do you think you could handle it? Nobody else wants to do it, and I'm always up for it. So a little bit of advice to you guys is never turn down an opportunity. It might scare the crap out of you, and that's probably a good thing, to step out of your comfort zone and do something that you wouldn't normally do. And for me, that first time was taking a small group communication class here. I was terrified. I didn't know one person, and it turned out to be one of the best experiences of my life. And Shelley was here, and she was my instructor then, and for every single comm class I took, so it was fantastic. A few other tidbits that I learned along the way, and that I'd like to pass on to you guys, and these are small things, but a lot of us procrastinate. I'm a procrastinator. You wait till the last minute. You have that huge speech to write and then present, and it's very daunting, but what I found to do is I break things up into tiny little pieces, and that really works for me. So I open up a Word document, and I just save it. I save a title to it, speech on 10/23, and then I close it, and I'm done. I'm like, all right, cool.
I can come back to that next week when I have more time. So I break things up into tiny little pieces to help me to, okay, I have this goal, and set those goals for yourself. Set tiny goals and then set huge goals. Think 10, 15 years down the road. What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And they could change. I still have the little piece of paper that's this big that had all of my 1 through 6 on there of the things I needed to accomplish before I became a park ranger. I still have that little piece of paper, and I have little check marks on each one. And I still have a current list now. It's a little more formal. It's typed. I've moved up in the world. I can type out my goals now. But just taking those things and being able to look at them on paper, and maybe that doesn't work for you, but figure out what does work for you. Find people who support you, like the people in this program. Other comm majors, communication club. I was here when comm club started. I was vice president of its first, term out, season out, and that was so exciting. It started from pretty much nothing, and you guys are here today, and that's fantastic. I'm so happy to see it going. So find people who support you. Find mentors that are there to advocate for you, that when you hand in your resume, you can hand in another piece of paper. This person vouches for me. They say I'm awesome. They will back me up any day of the week. Find that. Find those people. And lastly, but certainly not least, find your passion, because that's what I've done. I'm so lucky, so early on in my life. I'm really still very young, and I found my career, what I will do for the rest of my life. So find that.
So yes, as Shelly mentioned, my name's Lindsay. So where to begin? I came here in 2009 right after graduating from high school, and one of the general education requirements was to take a public speaking class. I've never liked speaking in front of large groups, and especially in front of classes. So I signed up for it, and I had one of the best professors. It was I think Denise Basson. And so it was really awesome, because what I ended up doing was taking more communication classes after the first one I took, because I fell in love with the program as well. The students, they are very supportive, like Allie was mentioning, and then the instructors as well. They definitely are here for the students, very approachable, and so I kept taking different classes, and it was helpful because my sister, she didn't know what she wanted to do at all for a career, but for me, I've always wanted to work with people and major in psychology, so I decided to pursue in communications, and then after that, I ended up transferring to a couple JCs just because my parents moved from the Bay Area, and so eventually I moved up to Redding in Northern California. And I transferred to Shasta College, and then I transferred to Simpson University, where I actually got to apply my degree in communications and everything I learned. I went on a missions trip to Minnesota, and I worked with refugees from 2 different cultures. They were from the Nepali background and then also Hmong cultures, and that's very different compared to typical American society. And so what I learned with low context cultures and high context cultures was very helpful, because it had me, it had skills where I was able to relate to the people, listen to their stories, be an empathetic listener and communicator. And then in addition, that also fostered my development into getting into the restaurant industry and working as a part-time hostess. And so I'm constantly interacting with people on a daily basis, and this degree has helped me come to where I'm at now, which is I work at Logan's Roadhouse, part-time hostess, and I'm at Chico State, in which it's my last semester there. I'm majoring in psychology, and so I'm constantly talking to people, whether it's faculty, students, or customers at the restaurant, and it's very interesting because it makes me a more understanding person, not just with my psychology background, but with just different communication styles. And so, yes, I'll be finishing up my last semester, and then my long-term goals, I want to be a marriage and family therapist, so I do want to go to grad school. I'll probably end up staying in Chico, and there's also another point I wanted to touch on as well. My sister, she actually studied abroad this past summer, and she went to Germany. So what she learned in her communication studies here was very helpful too, because she was able to like understand the culture a lot better and then have a different mindset, and rather than being very like ethnocentric, she was just like going into embracing the culture and the differences. And so it's definitely helped both of us come a long way. And she's at San Jose State right now, finishing her last semester in communication studies. So she actually now knows what she wants to do, and so it's helped us. And my advice to you is definitely take a step outside of the box and try something new, because what I realized is public speaking is not as scary as you might think. I used to think that all the time, but with more experience, it is very helpful, and it definitely gets you just, I don't know, where you want to be in life and interacting with people. That happens on a daily basis. So this degree is definitely very applicable to everyday life and situations, and it'll help you in the long run. You could apply it to any field, like I'll be applying it to psychology. So I just definitely recommend it. Pursue it.
My journey's been a little bit different, but I also, like everybody else, every other speaker here today, I started at Gavlin. When I was in high school, other people were taking their SATs and thinking about college, and no one in my family had ever been to college, and so it wasn't even really on the radar for me. And so I got out of high school, hadn't taken the SAT, hadn't thought really about college, and I was like, hey, I want to do something in my spare time besides just work. So I enrolled at Gavlin, and I took an art class, and I took a Spanish class, and semester after semester, I just kind of continued taking classes that I wanted to take. And I started to realize as I got into college that public speaking was a valuable skill that I did not possess. Class after class, we had to continue to stand up and speak to people in class, and I did not want to do it. I was sweaty and uncomfortable, did not know how to organize my thoughts. I had really no idea at all how to deliver a public speech. And so I was taking Spanish to challenge myself to learn a second language, and I got into one of the more advanced courses, and lo and behold, there it was. In Spanish, you're going to deliver a public speech, and that was the death of me. Really, it was. And I kind of dropped all my note cards, and I was stumbling over my words. I was really uncomfortable, and kind of just scooted myself off and just sat down. Like, there was no ending. I didn't finish my speech. I just sort of scooted off and sat down. And so I went home and really thought to myself, if I'm going to make it through college, if this is something I want to do, I have to take public speaking. I cannot avoid it. I have to take it. So I enrolled in public speaking with Denise Bassan, and that class changed the course of my life. That class was so transformative. I learned so many things about myself. I learned about confidence. It really did change me from the inside out. I saw how different I felt in my everyday life, communicating with people in general, and just the way that I felt about myself. Just even I felt my posture changing after that class. Just so many things about my demeanor and myself had changed. And so I continued to go about my journey at Gavlin. I was here for 4 years. Like I said, just taking my time taking classes. And so at the end, I applied for my associate's degree and just thought it would be in liberal arts. And they told me, hey, you have all these units in Spanish. You have your associate's degree in Spanish. Like, okay. All right. So I was feeling a little bit nervous about that. How am I going to transfer this to a university? I think I'd like to go to university. And thought back on all the classes I had taken. And the class that touched my heart and changed my life the most was public speaking. And it was undeniable. I could not deny the effect that it had on my life. And so I remembered hearing Denise in class let us know that she had gone to San Jose State. She had done the bachelor degree program and the master's degree program, and she had applied for something called the GTA program at San Jose State. And for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a graduate teaching associateship where you are given the opportunity to teach as you're going through the master's program. So I kept thinking back at her experience and thought to myself, if this transformed my life this much, I think I have the ability to do that as well. So I applied for the Communication Studies program at San Jose State, fell in love with it. Like all the panelists have said, it affects every area of your life. You can apply everything that you learn in this major every single day. Went to the program, loved it, and thought, hey, maybe I can cross my fingers, get into the master's program, and I was lucky enough to get in. And so about a year after the program, I decided to go for the gold, apply for the GTA program. And so I got to teach at San Jose State. I got to teach public speaking for 2 years while I was a student there finishing up my degree. and I wanted to teach. I wanted to go back and have the opportunity that Denise Basson had to connect with students like myself and everybody else on this panel. And I really wanted to take that opportunity to connect with students in the same way that somebody had connected with me. And so toward the end of my master's program, I finished in the spring, so I'm newly graduated, and I was looking for positions that were opening, and Shelly had sort of reached out to some of us in the program and said that there was a position that would be opening up at Gavilan. And I was literally jumping inside at the opportunity to come back. And so I applied. I was still a master's student. I was just going to be finishing up. And so now I am very, very proud to say that I'm a part-time faculty member here teaching public speaking, which is awesome. Come full circle. I'm what they call a freeway flyer. So I'm not just here, I'm also teaching at West Valley and teaching at San Jose State. So I'm all over the place, but it has been just a fantastic opportunity to get to connect with students on the same level that I got here at Gavilan. And so I want to challenge you all, if public speaking or communication studies is something that makes you nervous or something that makes you uncomfortable, I challenge you to face that fear, because in highlighting what our fears are and facing our fears head on, that is when our life transforms in the most amazing ways. And communication studies will transform your life in every single aspect. So if you're not a comm major now, I'm pushing you in that direction. It is so fantastic. It will change your life. And so I appreciate you all for being, thank you for being here. This is a great opportunity. This is awesome.
I just feel very overwhelmed right now and humbled by everyone here. So thank you. So let's give our speakers another big round of applause. And at this time, if you have a question for a speaker, you can just raise your hand, and then we'll do that for a little bit, and then they've agreed to stay longer too if you want to talk one-on-one and have questions. But I really appreciate everyone coming, and I hope you stay for question and answer, because sometimes even more information, details will be shared and help you out. So does anyone have a question?
They always want to know that they'll be able to live a comfortable lifestyle. We all know we're not going to be filthy rich, but so what's your take on that now that you're out in the corporate world and of course in education? How's the money look out there for this kind of degree?
As some of you may know or don't know, public sector and private sector are very different. I don't work for a corporation. I work for the government. I'm a county employee. It's a little bit different. I can't jump up the ladder super fast and be making, 6 figures a year. I can get pretty close, but not quite that. I think my speech was a lot about passion. And when you're passionate about something, you'll pretty much take. I can definitely survive on what I make, but it's not the corporate world. That's a little bit different. And some of these guys are more familiar with that than I am. I get the steady raises. You get that. That comes with it. I get raises automatically. I look at that paycheck stub. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I didn't have to do anything for that. That's great. And that's just how it works. When you work for an agency like the County of Santa Clara, who has plenty of money. So in case you're wondering. A lot of people get that confused. Oh, you work for the parks. Oh, state parks, they have no money. State, county, city, all different departments, different entities. So when you're looking at that, look into that a little bit deeper. If you're concerned about the money and the pay coming in, look at who you're going to work for. But the County of Santa Clara has done me well, and it will continue to do so.
What are other skills that you guys highly suggest that we work on as communication majors?
So being able to organize your thoughts, being able to clearly state what it is that your point is or whatever information you're trying to get across. So I think that crosses from communication studies kind of over into English, but I think it's really important to focus on the written aspect, because in any job that you're going to be in, almost always, you're going to have to communicate via email. You're going to have to be able to, like you're saying, proofread a resume, whatever it is, but written skills are highly valued and they're really important, and you can get so much of that from communication studies. And I would say definitely focusing on communicating in a clear, concise, effective way in terms of written communication.
Don't forget that stuff. Don't chuck it out the window. You can't save everything. Definitely not. I'm not that. I don't like to save stuff. but you can scan it, save it on your computer. But look back at that, because written is, I communicate via email every day, and some of the emails I get are horrific, and they're coming from higher up than where I am. So it's yeah, don't forget that. But also just being able to listen. Close your mouth and open your ears is what I like to say. Truly listen to what the other person is saying. They can tell, right? You guys talk about nonverbals, looking at the watch, looking at the clock. Okay, I'm tired of listening to you. Those are all cues that you don't want to listen to what the other person has to say, or vice versa. So be aware of those. Be aware of those nonverbal cues to be able to really listen. And like you're saying, be empathetic to what the other person is saying. Empathy is huge. I did not possess it until of recent years, so it's definitely big. It's priceless.
I'm a double major here in my third semester. I initially came knowing I wanted to be in general business and had to take a communications 1A class as a requirement. And Denise right away told us that we could get the certificate or we can major in it. It was like 3 units difference. So I said, okay. I went ahead and became a double major. And the more, I'm in my second communication class now, and the first was intro to 1A, now interpersonal. And the deeper I go into this journey with my requirements and my business classes and communication classes, the more I realize how it's such a method to everything that we do, even how we communicate. And I particularly have a lot of interest in the public relations and the human resource. How does that look like inside from a business perspective when you have people focusing on messaging and communicating to the public or to customers? Because I'm founding a business and I want to be the executive and the voice behind the business, but also see now how important it's going to be to assimilate a very strong communications team. So can either one of you guys kind of let me know what it looks like behind the scenes, putting a message together?
I'm constantly working with the teams. I have teams, development teams all over the world. And, we have updates every week. How's the project going? How's the project going? And in my mind, I'm, just thinking, how am I going to frame your product when we're getting ready to launch? And I have to think. So we make games. So we make mobile games. So I have to think about, for example, our most popular game is called Deer Hunter. So it's a hunting simulation game on mobile, and it's the most popular hunting game in the country right now. But if we take a look at who we're marketing towards, I outline who our customer is, what they're reading. That game's going to be targeted a little bit different than we make Kim Kardashian's game. So those two are very different. So I go after lifestyle publications and things like that for that game. So I'm talking to the editors of Vogue because we have all her clothing and things are in the game. I'm talking to the editors of USA Today and things like that, fashion bloggers. For Deer Hunter, I'm talking to sports and hunting magazines, men's magazines, and things like that. Gaming specific for both. So you have to just take a look at who your target audience is, what those people are doing, what those people are reading, what communities they live in, and things like that. And that comes from my teams. They let me know who they think their audience is, and then internally as well. There's a lot of communication that goes on between departments. Talking to different executives and making sure that they know what the whole framework is. So I think you have to take a step back and look at what you're selling and who you're trying to communicate that with, and make sure that that's accurate. As you might think that you're targeting a specific group of people, but it may be completely different. So it's just about talking to people and showing them what you have and taking that feedback.
But coupled with that too is, and this also answers her question earlier about skills to work on, it's less tangible, but learning to be persuasive, not manipulative, but persuasive, in an empathetic way, right? And so being able to craft your communication in a way that helps to get people on the same page, helps to develop the same mindset, helps to want them to buy in to whatever you're doing, whatever the product or solution is. So that persuasion piece is really important, at least for me internally as well.
I only took one. I only took public speaking. That was all I ever. I mean, I was so scared because even after I had taken it, I still was. I mean, it was a process to get into that. But at the time, I think the certificate program came out the year that I left. There wasn't at that point. You know, I just continued to take Spanish classes because I was challenging myself just to learn to speak Spanish. But at that time, I just thought it was something fun that I had taken, and I really didn't think about taking more classes because at the time I didn't realize where it could lead me. I didn't really have a lot of people talking to me about communication studies and about other courses. I just really wasn't that familiar with it at the time, which is what makes this so great, is that I had the opportunity to come back and for all of us to talk to you about how much the major can do for you. But at the time, I didn't really have anybody reaching out except the messages that I got in Denise's class, and then that's what I kind of took. But that was the only class I ever took.
So I would say my favorite would be interpersonal communication because that also had a component of like small group working together. And so I remember there's one requirement was like a 30-minute presentation on the movie Good Will Hunting, and so it's really awesome because like my sister, she's been with me through this whole journey, so that's been helpful. But I would say interpersonal communication was my favorite because growing up, we were very like hostile, and you know how sisters are, they're just like, they fight constantly. So now like we are like best friends, and so I want to say like the pivotal moment was taking these communication courses and figuring out how to apply it to just like family relationships and maintenance, and so that's definitely one of my favorite and most worthwhile experiences through the communication studies.
I'd say public speaking was the most fun for me. I like loved speech days, loved listening to everyone's, but I think small group communication surprised me the most. I put it off till the very last semester. I'm like a one-woman show in school. Get your small group off me. Don't like group projects. Like, was so scared to take this class. It sounded like terrible. I loved that class. I learned so much from it and loved the community service component of it. And it really showed me how much communication could apply to your volunteer world that you're passionate about too, and the people that you want to be able to help in life outside of a professional context too. So thanks for surprising me.
Definitely, I would have to agree too. Small group was something that I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to work with other people, and I loved it. And I saw how vital it was for volunteers. I'm volunteer liaison for my unit that I work in now, and volunteers are vital to my everyday. They make things happen that I don't literally have the time to do. But my favorite, and it will always be my favorite, is public speaking. That class just, it rocks. The vibe in here on speech days, and I don't know if you still sign up via number on the board, and I would come in and want to get that first spot every time, and it was a family in here. That's how it was. We were so supportive of each other, and by the end of the semester, we were crying because we didn't want to leave and we didn't want to walk out of here. So if you haven't done it already, public speaking is amazing. The class is fantastic. You'll be scared. You'll be nervous every time. It doesn't go away for many years, so just expect it. Just plan on being nervous. It happens. It happened today. I sat down here and went, holy cow, there's a lot of people in this room. It's a little daunting, but it's amazing. So public speaking for me.
I'm going to have to go with small group. I love public speaking as well. That was a great class, but small group is more applicable in my everyday life. I don't give speeches to large groups very often, but I am often working with small groups of people, whether it's my communications teams I manage in Asia, and my executives. It's always small groups of people, so it's really, I use those skills a lot every day. How do I get my message across to different people? How do I make sure everyone understands what I'm saying, and my points come across, and then in turn, how do I take all of their feedback all at the same time, and how do we work together for this common goal? So I use that every single day, but then public speaking does come in handy when I have to give presentations and things like that. But yeah, small group for me.
Any other questions? Let's
I have one comment though.
Yes.
So I actually forgot to mention this, but I volunteered as an HR assistant, and so that was very a rewarding experience just because it had to do a lot with relationships with people and within different departments, and so I volunteered with the YMCA up in Reading, and so definitely this degree opens so many doors, whether it's volunteer opportunities or actually employment opportunities. So I definitely encourage you guys to major in communications again.